Number 1, Dawson Hudson.
He could really come out smelling like a rose.
Even though he has that dreaded R next to his name, he looks legit now. He looks like a reformer. But this also bodes for someone deciding as an opportunist to throw their hat in as a Republican in primary Dawson.
I would hope that the Republican Party would be smart enough to not do that.
They have other races that need good candidates.
That need a pulse.
Like every race.
Yeah.
and you know, I see in Hodgson, I see the kind of classic Rhode Island Republican, a la Ron Makeley, John Chafee,
right?
You know, the fiscally conservative, like socially, or as P.O. puts it, socially cool,
right?
Republicans. Right. And we have, honestly, a long history of those type of Republicans here in the state, and I see him as kind of the next logical progression of that.
Right. If this doesn't send the shockwave across the state that says that we need someone, you know, where have you gone, Dawson Hudson? Rhode Island cries as lonely eyes for you. I mean, this screams for him. The second person, let's just say Mattiello loses. Ruh-roh. What happens to Mattiello, and what other politicians, and because you could have the prospect of midterm, everything getting thrown up like 52-card pickup in the State House. Mattiello loses. What happens to committees? What happens to personalities? Who loses the most?
Well, for the people of Rhode Island, first and foremost. So while we were chatting on the phone last night, I mentioned that, you know, I think that the smart thing to do for either camp, now whether or not they're going to do the smart thing, that remains to be seen.
Yeah, well, I would not assume any such thing.
The smart thing would be to just leave the committee chairs. I mean, we're halfway through the session here. We're coming up on crunch time when they really start to let the legislation fly. The smart thing to do would be to leave the chairs where they are. Like, not mess around with any of that stuff, because, I mean, these guys don't want to be in the House in the middle of July either. So hopefully they have the good sense to say, okay, well, even if there is a big shift in leadership in the House, I think the smart money is keep the chairs where they are, and we can revisit them come next session.
But some of these people hate each other.
Yes, they do.
I mean,
that's kind of too bad. Maybe they'll have to act like adults for a few months.
But if you, I'm going to take devil's advocate. I'm going to put myself in the role of a political progressive who has seen their legislation, with the exception of marriage equality, go down in flames for a generation. Open government, all those issues, and the very criminals who have been a roadblock to that are the people in power. Do you want them in power another day? Is the Marcello and Blazewski strong enough to keep those people in a position of power and still marshal the legislation that they want to see take place? Is that possible?
Well, I think if from what I've been reading, if the votes are that close, you will see. Let's say Mattiello Di Simone take leadership. You know, you're going to see very, very strong opposition from at least, now Marcello's claimed that he has 33 votes. 33 votes in the Rhode Island House that's a pretty hefty caucus.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a lot of votes.
Absolutely.
So, you know, if there's going to be this bifurcation of the House along these lines, I would assume that there's going to be quite a bit of pushback on either side to any type of legislation, whether it's going to be our class of, you know, our closeted Republicans masquerading as Democrats,
the dinos,
or the progressive caucus in the House. You know, they have to work together. But I would hate to see this devolve into, you know, what we see at the national level, which is just obstructionism, basically from both sides,
and obstructionism for its own sake.
Yeah.
I think we might find that some of the people on the losing vote will have done enough back talk behind the scenes to modify what happens. There'll be a handful of people who will go to one side or the other and say, hey, I have to vote in so-and-so's caucus, but it's for this reason or that reason. I owe him a favor, blah, 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 blah. I'm not hostile to you, because they're going to be trying to play both ends against the middle.
Yeah.
Or they have some little piece of pork or some little grant that they want to bring back home for when they go knocking on doors.
Yeah. Right, exactly.
Yep.
Who are Mattiello's primary lieutenants?
DeSimone, Helio Mello. Mello's not quite as conservative, but he's also the chair of the House Finance Committee, which is arguably the most powerful committee in.
And why
important committee?
Very, very early on, his name was floated and then disappeared. You're right. House Finance. That's everything.
Nothing goes on paper until it goes through that committee.
Right. So why isn't he in the same conversation as, or arguably, if not for Mr. Speaker, then Senate Majority? Or is he carved out? Is he one of these wonks that sort of carved out a fiefdom running House Finance and is willing to just stay out of the fray?
Well, and that could very well be it too. Maybe he just said, "Look, I don't want it. I don't want the seat. I don't want the speaker's seat." And could anybody really blame him? I mean, you're constantly, people are just, pump action shotgun with the trigger tied down.
Well, and you wonder if someone like Mello would be wise to abstain, because when you talk about midstream corrections like this, arguably the most difficult position to change over midstream, literally right in the middle of a term, would be House Finance.
Absolutely.
All right. So does he then abstain, if we're just speculating, and say, hey, I'm the Switzerland of the House Committee. I'm staying neutral. You guys work it out. Meanwhile, I'm going to worry about the people of the state of Rhode Island. Interesting
enough, when Gordon Fox ran at the beginning of 2013 session, there were 3 abstentions from that vote. Mm-hmm. So it's not guaranteed. Maybe that whole third faction of Democrats is going to abstain from voting so that they can play both sides against the middle.
Yeah, that could well happen.
This is the ultimate on-the-record conversation. Wow. Well, it's one of those situations where, as a betting man, I wouldn't know who to. It's allegedly the meeting started at 5:00. It may, Tony, maybe you can check the web to see if there's been any bold pronouncements.
If there's been any white smoke.
Or in this case,
Habemos speaker on?
Black smoke wins the day. Who the next architect of evil?
Whose hair is on fire at this point?
I know that Ian Donis actually asked to have the caucus open to reporters. And he was,
I bet that went over well.
Summarily dismissed.
Yeah. Well, we listen. Listen. If you're looking for a great show on Saturday afternoons, here at the Coalition, we're not afraid to pimp our friends and other people's radio shows. We don't have that kind of embargo that the lamestream media does. Tara Granahan, I just have a lot of fun with her show on Saturday afternoons. A year or so ago, she started out as kind of a lighthearted approach, some women's issues, just happy chat and things like that. Well done. And lately, just because of circumstances, she's always had she's got the creds to do it. Mm-hmm. It's become one of the go-to places on Saturday afternoon. Now, she had my representative, Karen Macbeth, who opined for about 7 minutes, crying out just for that type of openness, which is ironic because she'll just vote for whoever she's told to vote for anyway. So maybe it's a good thing that if we had that openness, so we could see that exactly who tells her who to vote for. Because obviously she's probably worried about her wacky legislation getting through. But that's right, she's a Democrat, and aren't they all liberals?
It's funny when you said that. The first thing that popped into my head was, how do you solve a problem like a Maria, right? I need a man who's older and wiser, telling me what to do.
Oh, man. Yeah, hey now. Let's just go around the room. Let's do a prediction. What sayeth you, Dave Fisher?
I think my money is on Marcello and Blazczewski for House leadership. I'm sick to my stomach that the reps from my city of Woonsocket seem to be firmly in the Mattiello camp at this point. I think that is going to prove to be very detrimental to them in future elections. And with Gordon Fox, who knows? We are just so in the dark on this right now. And due to the nature, like Christine said, about the horse trading that goes on at the State House, who knows how many fingers are in how many pies?
You'll note that Bob Plain did a deathbed conversion to supporting What was his comment today? Anybody but Mattiello.
It's a miracle.
Way to go there. Go out on a limb, buddy. Christine, any predictions?
I'm anxious that Mattiello will end up getting the votes because people will be afraid to vote against someone who's evil.
True.
You don't want to be retaliated against when the bad guy gets in power and starts his payback.
Let me put a call out to the Elvis of Rhode Island.
Yeah, so please, if you're out there listening, be brave. If enough of you are brave, we can win this.
As I said on Twitter yesterday, at Tony Jones NRI, what does the fox say indeed?
Priceless, by the way.
You know, like we've been saying on this program since the very beginning, P.O., we have lamented the fact that the governorship of this state is pretty much nothing. What you're seeing here is the equivalent of who is going to be governor.
Right. And it's not being decided by the voters. It's being decided by a bunch of people in a back room.
It's being decided at Patrick's Pub.
Right.
Over a tasty Narragansett beer.
Call your representative, folks. You do have a voice in this.
Yes.
Call your rep.
My prediction, Mattiello, Spreaker, Blazewski, Senate Majority Leader.
You're splitting the difference, huh?
I think all of a sudden my progressive friends are going to develop the sort of testicular fortitude necessary to gain at least some semblance of power.
They're going to grow one ball.
Wow! Hey now.
I can say ball on the radio, can't I?
We'll find out.
What happens if we get fired from this station, Tony? More news next week on that. But we need a symbol in here. We need a P. So that's my prediction. I see a shared power coming forward, and then hopefully my dream will come true. That I'll be flying over Providence when that light finally goes out, all right? And Rhode Island just sinks into utter chaos. Because the prospect of those two groups literally going at each other's throats, Tony, what's the analogy I always use? It's like the Iran-Iraq war.
Oh, man.
Can everybody lose?
Oh, jeez.
Tony, we got our Liberty friends are coming up soon, right, that event?
That's right, Liberty Love Fest 4. It's going to be happening April 5th in your neck of the woods, P.O., libertylovefest.org. Get your tickets now. Just a fantastic day of music and vendors and speakers such as guys the caliber of the P.O. taxpayer. And
Process servers alert, I will be there. Watch, if you want clues for how I'm going to get in and out, watch the end of the Blues Brothers.
And, of course, we have to remind everybody to check out Manchester65.com. They have a litany of shows coming up for spring and summer that it really runs the range of from rhythm and blues to cover bands to hard rock to punk rock. It's not a rock club or a jazz club or a blues club. It is all inclusive. I would even submit to you that a guy like the P.O. taxpayer, the whitest guy I know, can go to Manchester 65 and have a good time.
I was there the other night, to Mr. Vincent's eternal credit. He runs one of the few legitimate open mic nights during the week for aspiring rock and roll bands to get a chance to showcase their talents, to play in front of a group of people, to play the big hall. And you're right. Actually, there is a Grateful Dead tribute band coming into town, and I invite all my co-hosts to join me that night.
See, now that's where our friends from Regulate Rhode Island should be signing up.
That's right.
So we got like a minute left in the show here. I just want to let everybody know that if you see Tony Jones this week,
which you
make
will.
sure you wish him a happy birthday because today is Tony's birthday.
Are you ready?
Happy
the
birthday,
world's tallest
Tony.
teenager
As
just
soon as
runs another odometer around.
As soon as we go off the air, everybody in here is going to give me my birthday spankings.
Tony,
you wish.
Another year closer to getting married.
Another year closer. Yeah, that, unfortunately, is... someone asked me today if I would marry them, and I was like, I can't do that. And then they realized, because I'm a reverend here in Rhode Island, they wanted me to marry them.
To perform the ceremony.
I took that message completely wrong.
Well, happy birthday, buddy.
Thanks, guys. Great job as always. And with that, coalitionradio.us is our website, which has a fantastic blog page going on right now. We really do have opinions from anywhere, any political area you could think of. So go ahead and check that out, coalitionradio.us. Click on blogs. Facebook.com/The Coalition Radio. Thank you all for tuning in and checking us out over there. By the way, we were talking about name recognition a little earlier, and Ken not running for Governor Block